All right. Welcome everyone. I'm Tanya. I'm a first year cardiology fellow at Westchester Medical Center. I'll be talking to Dr. Michelle Kittleson today. Welcome, Dr. Kittleson. Most of us don't need an introduction to Dr. Kittleson, but those of you who don't know her, she's the Director of Education in Heart Failure and Transplantation, as well as the Director of Heart Failure Research and a professor of medicine at the Smidt Heart Institute at Cedars Sinai in California. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Kittleson.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you. So today we'll be talking about women in cardiology as part of the FITS on the Go initiative. We missed you at ACC in person. It was a great session, and we talked about a lot of things. We talked about a lot of barriers and what it means to be a woman in cardiology. But given your vast experience, I wanted to ask you what has been the biggest challenge you have faced and something you would like to go over and talk about, and how we could overcome it, or what your experience has been.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a book that recently came out. It's called Mastering the Art of Patient Care. Kind of a lot of things that I learned from my mentors and learned from my own mistakes. And there's actually a chapter in the book entitled "Women in Medicine." In parentheses, men, don't skip this chapter. And so I really think this is such an important topic. And so barriers I've faced, I'm going to talk about two of them. The first barrier, I think, is something I faced earlier in my career, which is I felt that I wasn't being taken as seriously as I could or should have been. And I attributed it to being a woman, or maybe a small, diminutive, youthful appearing woman. And I remember being an intern in the intensive care unit. And I would say to a nurse, the nurse would say to me, blood pressures, 70 over 30. And I would say, give some recommendation. And I would see the nurse look kind of over my shoulder to the left at my senior resident who was standing beside me for confirmation. I was like, I know what I'm doing. Why aren't they listening to me? And then one day, I saw this surgical intern come into the intensive care unit. And she was small, youthful appearing, a woman. And when she spoke, the nurses listened. I'm like, what's going on here? So I sort of like stalked her a little bit and eavesdropped. And I noticed she was always polite, but never that friendly. So I was much more dynamic, or talking. I think we should increase the inotropes, or let's increase the inotropes, that upward inflection, that questioning tone. She never had it. She spoke in a polite monotone. And it was incredible to me that after I adopted that, people listened more. So I realized that part of how I was perceived was something I could change myself. I felt confident. I needed to appear confident. Another strategy I've taken is, when sometimes I write an email and I see that I've written things like, I think X, Y, and Z, I think blah, blah, blah. And if I take out the I thinks, it says the same thing, but yet it sounds much more confident. So sometimes that can help as well. So I'd say that's one major barrier, small things that can make a big difference. The other barrier that I have encountered as a woman in medicine is having kids. And listen, maybe dads in medicine experience this too. But I'll tell you, I don't think there's a right time to have kids. There is not a wrong time to have kids. I talk about in my book the three criteria you need to be a successful professional and parent. There's three criteria. You need at least two of them. You need a flexible and dependable spouse, dependable paid childcare, or family that's willing to help. And if you have two of those three things, you can make it work. But that doesn't mean it's easy. And so I had those things. I have a flexible and dependable spouse. I had when I needed it, paid, dependable childcare, and it was still so hard. And I think that adage that you can have everything you want, you can have it all, you just can't have it all at the same time, truly applies. And there was absolutely a desert in my academic career that occurred between 2012 and 2018, during which time I was either pregnant with one of my three children, taking care of a newborn, dealing with that. And it was too, I could keep my patients alive, I could keep my kids alive, and I just did not have enough energy to do anything else. And did my career slow down during that time? Probably. Do I care? No. I mean, my priorities are right because they're mine, but there's no question. I think one has to accept that at certain times, one will make choices, and that's okay, but they will happen. So, anyway, that's a super long answer to your first question, but there you have it.
Yeah, but that's so helpful. I think a lot of the time when I speak to medical students or residents, they tell me that they have different priorities, and they cardiology just being the way it is very daunting for them, and they don't want to sacrifice a part of their life to do this. So that brings me to my next question. For these trainees under us or medical students, how can each of us be better mentors and allies so we can welcome them into the field or make the field more enticing for these women trainees?
I think of what worked for me, and I was drawn to cardiology because I love the fact that the history and physical matters. I love the fact that the clinical trials give us such a rich basis on which to direct therapy to help our patients feel better and live longer. I love the pathophysiology of it. So one may be drawn to it medically, but then maybe perceive these barriers of work and lifestyle. I think what each of us can do is walk the walk and talk the talk, meaning I try to be very open with the trainees I work with on how my life is, how I spend my life, and my glamorous weekends spent doing laundry and grocery shopping, or the fact that I might pick up my kids from school, but my protected research time might be 3 hours every night after the kids are hermetically sealed in their sleeping chamber, never to be heard from again until the morning time comes. So I think it's so important to show how you make it work. And there is no right way. And clearly it doesn't work all the time. But I think seeing that it doesn't, even though it's not easy, and even though it won't always go smoothly, it is possible. For me, seeing that in my role models and mentors helped me. And I think we need to pay it forward by showing those below us how we do it, how we don't do it, and how it works out.
That's great advice. Couldn't have agreed more. And seeing our mentors go through different things, it normalizes the experience, makes it more real, and gives me a sense of confidence that not everyone has it all figured out, and everybody's figuring it out as they go. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. So next question, moving forward with the trajectory of careers, there's, as we all know, a lot of dearth of female leaders. That that has changed a lot from when I was beginning to enter into the field to now. I see so many more women in leadership roles, being program directors, being research leaders. Since you do all of that and more, what would your advice be for young, early career cardiologists or FITs on how to be better leaders, or how to initiate that early on in our careers so we don't always have to play catch up, so as to say?
Yeah, I think that's such a great point. I think and one thing I never realized when I finished fellowship, I had this conception that you finish fellowship, you get a job, hopefully you love that job and you stay in it forever, and you do the same thing every day for the rest of your life. I had no conception when I graduated from fellowship almost 2 decades ago now that you can reinvent your clinical, professional, academic career as time goes on. So I think the first thing I'd say is, you have no idea where your career interests will take you. And you always keep an open mind to follow passions that may change and grow. If you told me 20 years ago I would love amyloidosis, I'd say, what's amyloidosis? If you told me I would write medical essays, I'd say, I don't even know what that means. So I think you have to be open to these things that will grow. The second thing I would say then is you have to sort of differentiate. Do you want to be a leader because it is important for women to represent and be leaders? Or are you naturally drawn with a passion to a certain field? Because it's like I said, your priorities are right because they're yours. So if your priority at a given time is to say, listen, I want to start a family and I want to do it now, and those extras are just going to have to wait, you can absolutely do that. But if there's a burning fire within you to just shoot for the stars and these leadership roles, that's incredible. That's fantastic too. It's equally as fantastic. And in that way, these professional societies have grown so much in the last few decades with so many opportunities, whether it's your regional ACC organization, whether it's the national, the call for nominations for committees comes out on a rolling cycle for ACC, AHA. I'm a heart failure cardiologist, HFSA. There's such a wealth of opportunity to get involved. And you find that experience and opportunity begets experience and opportunity, like AFib begets AFib. It's the same kind of thing. So the more you get engaged, the more people you meet, the more you show that you will complete a task and you will complete it on time and you will be engaged and you'll do it well, you'll find that opportunities spiral out from that. So I just say keep volunteering for things. You might find some you don't enjoy and you won't do those again, some that are amazing, and you'll keep on that trajectory.
That's such a great answer. Thank you so much. Just knowing that there's no hard endpoint and you're not just running behind a target, that's so reassuring. And thank you so much for sharing that with us. So that brings me to our final question, and I cannot get through an interview with you without saying this. Do you have a Kittleson's rule specifically for your female trainees?
Yeah, I think I mean, this probably applies mostly to female trainees, but I'll say it's probably inclusive. And it really gets down to that fact of life happens in stages. You can have it all. You probably can't have it all at once. And so I'll divide it into some sub rules. Number one, as I said before, your priorities are right because they're yours. You don't need to be having 17 publications a month on PubMed unless you really want to. Number two, comparison is the thief of joy. Just because your co-fellow is doing X, Y, or Z doesn't mean you have to be doing X, Y, or Z. And the third is ultimately designed by intention. I'm not the first person to say that, but truly, I think all of our intention should be to provide our patients with the most outstanding care. So, whatever you need to do to accomplish that goal, to help every patient sitting in front of you in clinic feel better, live longer, emerge better than they came to see you, that's great. And then anything else that happens after that, whether academic, professional, is just a bonus.
Wow, thank you so much. That is wonderful. I'm so glad we got to talk to you, and I'm very sure that everything we talked about, it hit a personal chord for me. So I'm thinking it would be very relatable to a lot of the other female trainees and men. I think there were great ideas that all of us can learn from. And thank you so much for taking the time out and talking to me, Dr. Kittleson. Thank you.
It was so much fun. Thank you.